I buried my twin sister alive in the family vault, her screams echoing like the lies she'd whispered in my ear for years. But it wasn't her body that convulsed in the dirt. It was mine, the one she'd stolen 15 years ago in that godforsaken lab our father built to cheat death. As the estate's groundskeepers shoveled the last of the Hudson Valley soil over what they thought was me, I straightened my silk blouse, her blouse, and walked back to the mansion, my heels clicking like the timer on a bomb only I could hear. That night, in the mirror of the master suite overlooking the choppy East River, I saw Eve's face staring back, sharp cheekbones, ice-blue eyes that had always made her the golden child, the one Daddy paraded at galas while I scrubbed grease from my nails after double shifts at the auto shop. But those eyes? They burned with Ellie's fire now. The swap hadn't just switched our skins. It had fused our souls in ways the quack neurosurgeon our father hired swore it wouldn't. Flashes of her memories, cocktails with senators, boardroom conquests, mingled with mine. The sting of her betrayal when she framed me for embezzling from the family trust, the cold bars of Rikers where I rotted for 3 years before the accident that swapped us. She'd walked free in my body, played the victim, while I woke up in hers, disoriented, with a billionaire's life dangling like a poisoned apple. And Daddy? He knew. He orchestrated it all to bury his dirty secret. The offshore accounts he'd funneled millions into, laundering blood money from a union bust that left 12 construction workers dead on a midtown high-rise site. I took the fall for Eve's petty thefts to cover his tracks, but he needed me gone for good. The swap was his masterpiece. Erase Ellie, install a compliant Eve in her shell, and let the real Eve live my forgotten life as a junkie on the Bowery. For 15 years, I'd played the part. Eve's part. I was Evelyn Harrington now, the ice queen of Harrington Global, the conglomerate Daddy built on the backs of broken men. I expanded it silently, ruthlessly, turning whispers of tech acquisitions into a shadow empire that dwarfed his crumbling legacy. Blockchain startups in Silicon Valley, rare earth mines in Montana, AI firms poaching Pentagon contracts. I funneled it all into blind trusts, crypto wallets no one could trace. Not even the family accountants, those spineless pricks who'd nod along while Daddy golfed with the mayor. I smiled at Thanksgiving dinners in the Hamptons, let Aunt Clara pinch my cheeks and coo about how I'd finally come into my own, all while plotting the reveal that would shatter them. Revenge wasn't a sprint. It was a marathon of suppressed screams, every merger a nail in their coffin. But tonight, with the vault sealed and the cops en route, tipped off anonymously about a disturbance on the grounds, I'd light the fuse. The police arrived just after midnight, their cruisers carving blue veins through the fog-shrouded estate. I watched from the solarium, nursing a Macallan on the rocks, the glass cold against my palm like the justice I'd denied myself for so long. Daddy, Richard Harrington, the silver fox with a Senate run in his sights, bellowed from the foyer, his voice cracking like cheap crystal. "What the hell is this? Evelyn, get down here." I descended the grand staircase slow, deliberate, my Louboutins echoing off the marble imported from Carrara. The lead detective, a grizzled NYPD vet named Kowalski with a mustache like a broom bristle, eyed me warily. "Ma'am, we got a 911 call about screams from the family vault. Groundskeeper found fresh dirt. You know anything about that?" Daddy spun on me, his face a mask of feigned outrage, veins bulging under his Botox-smooth forehead. "Evelyn, for God's sake, tell them this is a prank. Some kids from the village, probably." But his eyes, those beady, calculating eyes, flicked to mine with the old terror. He remembered the swap, the way I'd woken up gasping in Eve's body on that gurney, the surgeon's assistant panicking as monitors flatlined. "It's her," I'd whispered then, clawing at the restraints, and Daddy had leaned in close, his breath sour with scotch. "Play along, Ellie girl, or we bury you both." I'd played. God, had I played. Climbed the ranks at Harrington Global, outmaneuvered his cronies in velvet-gloved knife fights, all while Eve, in my old skin, spiraled into heroin haze on the Lower East Side, whispering my name in her fever dreams until she overdosed 6 months ago. The coroner ruled it accidental. I knew better. She'd been trying to claw back to me, to us, but the drugs Daddy supplied through back channels ensured she never would. I buried her, I said flatly, the words dropping like spent shells. The room froze. Aunt Clara gasped from the doorway, her pearls clattering against her décolletage, while Cousin Tommy, Daddy's golden boy heir, 28 and already balding from stress, stammered. Eve? What the fuck? Kowalski's hand twitched toward his holster, but I held up a manicured hand, Eve's heirloom ring glinting under the chandelier. Not Eve.
Me.
Ellie, the sister you all erased. Daddy lunged, but Tommy grabbed him, his face paling as the pieces clicked. I pulled a slim remote from my pocket, voice activated, linked to the estate's smart system, and murmured, Project Echo. Holographic projectors hummed to life, casting grainy footage across the Persian rugs. The lab in the Adirondacks, 15 years back, where Daddy's youth serum trials went rogue. Me, strapped down, Eve beside me, both dosed with the neural cocktail. The surge, the blackout, the wake-up in swapped shells. Audio logs followed, Daddy's voice, tinny and urgent. Switch complete. Ellie takes the fall. Eve gets a new life. No loose ends. The family stared, mouths agape, as the feed rolled to my solo recordings. Board meetings where I'd greenlit deals that starved Daddy's pet projects, emails to IRS tip lines about his laundered funds, even the anonymous wire to Eve's dealer, ensuring her silence in death. Controversial? Hell yes. I debated it in the dead of night, pacing Eve's walk-in closet lined with Chanel she never wore, asking if mercy was weakness. But betrayal cuts deepest when it's family, and mine had carved me out like a tumor. You think this ends it? Daddy snarled, wrenching free from Tommy. You're in her body, Ellie. Courts, DNA, they'll laugh you out. And that net worth you think you've hidden? I'll bury it with you. Ah, the net worth. My ace. For years, I'd siphoned Harrington assets into Evelyn's Ventures, a ghost company valued at $4.2 billion by last quarter's black market audit. Crypto farms in Wyoming, gene editing labs in Boston, even a slice of the dark web's data trade. Silent success, they called it in Forbes whispers. Evelyn Harrington, the reclusive mogul who'd tripled her inheritance without a single gala appearance. Kowalski cleared his throat, radio crackling. Dispatch says the vault's been breached. Bodies. Not what we expected. Female, mid-40s, looks like you, ma'am. But the prince. He trailed off, glancing at me. I'd staged it perfectly. Eve's corpse, exhumed from her pauper's grave and redressed in my old jeans, planted in the vault with a forged suicide note confessing to Daddy's crimes. My body, or what was left of the shell I'd abandoned. The real twist? It wasn't suicide. I'd orchestrated her end years ago, a mercy kill in the form of tainted fentanyl, because living as Ellie, the forgotten twin, scraping by on food stamps while I thrived as Eve, would have broken her worse than death. Controversial decision number 1. Euthanizing the betrayer who wore your face. But she'd framed me first, siphoned the trust to fund her coke habit, left me holding the bag for Daddy's sins. Blood money, indeed. As cuffs clicked around Daddy's wrists, the family fractured. Aunt Clara wailed, collapsing into Tommy's arms, while he met my gaze with something like awe, or was it fear?
Ellie.
How much, he whispered, the heir's greed peeking through. I smiled, Eve's perfect teeth flashing. Enough to buy this city twice over. And burn it down if I want. The net worth reveal hit the wires by dawn, leaked by my PR ghost, Evelyn Harrington, sole beneficiary, for $0.2 billion empire exposed. The stares? They came in waves, reporters at the gates, board members dialing from private jets, even the priest from St. Pat's calling to absolve sins I didn't regret. But the deepest cuts were the families, Tommy's emails begging for scraps, Aunt Clara's voicemails slurring about family loyalty, and Daddy's howls from Rikers, where I'd ensure he rotted like I had. Yet as I stood on the terrace that first free morning, the sun gilding the Hudson like fool's gold, doubt crept in. Revenge tasted like ash. I'd reclaimed my life, built an empire from the ruins of theirs, but what of the girl I'd been? The auto mechanic with grease under her nails and dreams of community college, not corner offices. The swap had stolen that Ellie, fused her with Eve's venom, and in avenging one, I'd become the monster. Or had I? The twist lingered, unspoken even to Kowalski. The surgeon's logs I'd buried deeper than the vault. The swap wasn't permanent. A reversal serum existed, hidden in my Cayman vault. 1 dose left. I could slide back into my old skin, let Eve's corpse rot as me, and vanish into anonymity. Or stay as Evelyn, queen of the wreckage, and rule. The reversal serum burned a hole in my conscience like a bad investment, but I shoved it down with the rest of the ghosts. Days blurred into a frenzy of depositions and buyouts. The Harrington name splashed across the post like tabloid confetti. Twin swap scandal. Billionaire's body-snatching secret exposed. Pundits on Fox debated the ethics. Was I a victim or a vigilante? CNN ran deep dives on the neurotech black market, interviewing whistleblowers who'd fled to Vancouver after Daddy's consultations. I dodged them all, holing up in the penthouse atop One Pen One, the views stretching to the freckled lights of Brooklyn like stars I'd bought and sold. Tommy showed up unannounced on day 3, slicked hair askew, clutching a manila folder like a peace offering. Ellie, can I still call you that? We need to talk Empire. Dad's spilling everything to the feds. Says you're the real thief. I poured him a scotch without offering, watching him squirm on the Eames leather. Thief? That's rich, coming from the family that stole my life. He flinched, but his eyes darted to the floor-to-ceiling windows, calculating escape routes or asset values. Tommy was always the opportunist, the one who'd laughed when I was arraigned, toasting Eve's tragic mix-up with Dom Perignon. Now, with Daddy's empire crumbling, stocks tanking 40% on the swap reveal, he saw me as the lifeline. Look, the board's panicking. Your ventures. That $4.20 bill? It's leverage. We merge, I run ops, you stay the face. Aunt Clara's on board. She says it's what family does. Family. The word soured like week-old milk. I debated killing him too. Back in the planning stages, a car accident on the FDR untraceable, but that would have been too merciful. No, Tommy deserved the slow bleed. Demotion to junior VP, his Hamptons shares diluted to pennies. Out, I said, voice like gravel under tires. He lingered, folder trembling. There's more. Dad's lawyer dug up something. The swap logs, they show Eve initiated it. Begged him to frame you, said you'd never measure up. Lie. I'd hacked those files years ago, seen the truth. Eve was collateral, a pawn Daddy used to test the tech on expendables like me. But letting Tommy believe it sowed discord, the first crack in their united front. He left muttering about betrayal, and I texted my fixer, a ex-Mossad operative moonlighting in private equity, to leak it to the Times. By evening, Tommy's phone blew up with reporters. By morning, he'd checked into rehab, citing family stress. Alone again, the penthouse felt like a cage of glass and steel, the kind that let you see the world but kept it at bay. I paced to the wet bar, fingers tracing the locket, our twin talisman, engraved ing, the one Eve had pawned for blow before the swap. Inside, a lock of my real hair, brown and wiry, not this honey blonde dye job. Controversial decision number 2, wearing her scent, her style, even her lovers. I'd betted a senator's aide once, just to feel something raw, but it ended in tears, mine, silent in the Four Seasons sheets, because every touch screamed wrongness. The serum tempted me then, a vial of azure liquid in the safe, promising reversal. 1 injection, and I'd be Ellie again, scars from shop burns, calluses from wrenches, free to disappear to some nowhere town like Boise, start a garage with honest grease. But power? It was a drug deadlier than Eve's horse. I'd tasted it in boardrooms, watching old men fold under my gaze, and spitting it out now felt like surrender. The real storm hit a week later, courtesy of the feds. Kowalski called at dawn, voice rough as sandpaper. Harrington, we got a problem. Your father's plea deal. He's flipping on the lab, the union hits, everything. But he swears the swap was mutual. Says, you wanted Eve's life. I laughed, a bark that echoed off the tavern floors. Mutual? I'd been hooded, drugged, waking to Daddy's smug face and a body that didn't fit like a too-tight glove. The interrogation room at Foley Square reeked of stale coffee and desperation when I arrived, flanked by my shark of a lawyer, a Barnard grad who'd clawed her way up on cases like mine. Daddy sat across the table, shackled, his Armani slacks rumpled, eyes hollowed by the fluorescent buzz. Ellie, he wheezed, tell them. We did it for the family. Your screw-ups were dragging us down, the thefts, the debts. Eve was the future. Theft. My stomach twisted, while rising. The thefts were Eve's, padded invoices for her parties, but I confessed to them in Rikers, plea bargain down to time served because Daddy's fixer pulled strings. The buried secret. Those funds? They masked the real crime. The Midtown collapse where shoddy beams, cut to save Daddy's margins, crushed those workers. I'd found the blueprints in his study as a teen, confronted him, and he'd slapped the truth into silence. Keep quiet or you're next. The swap was his endgame, erasing the loose end. Lies, I said coolly, sliding a USB across the table. Play it. The video cued. Me in the lab, 16 and terrified, begging no as the four dripped. Eve, giggling on sedatives, clueless to the plot. Daddy's voiceover, barking orders to the surgeon. Make it clean. Ellie's body gets the rap. Eve's gets the crown. He deflated, chains rattling, but his eyes gleamed with that old cunning. You think this wins? That empire of yours, it's tainted. Built on my seed money, my contacts. The board will revolt. He was half right. By noon, emails flooded. Resignations from VPs I'd blackmailed into loyalty, whispers of shareholder suits claiming the swap invalidated my stewardship. Controversial decision number 3. Going nuclear. I convened an emergency call from the chopper en route to DC, voice steady as I announced the purge. Harrington Global is dead. Long live Eclipse Holdings, my holdings. Any who jump ship get buried in NDAs and SEC filings. Half bolted, the rest stayed, lured by equity bumps I'd prepped in the shadows. The net worth ticked up overnight for $0.8 billion by Bloomberg close, my silent success blooming into public legend. The stares intensified, Wall Street Journal profile calling me the Phantom Twin, a mix of admiration and unease. Was I genius or ghoul? Nights blurred into strategy sessions with my inner circle, the fixer, a hacker kid from Queens I'd plucked from juvie, and Lena, my lawyer, whose no-bullshit Brooklyn accent grounded me. We mapped the Revenge's endgame over takeout foe in the conference room, steam curling like secrets. The climax, Lena said, chopsticks poised, is the gala. Daddy's old stomping ground, the Mets' corporate fate. You dropped the hammer there, full exposure. I nodded, but the serum whispered louder now, a siren's call in the quiet hours. Reversal meant peace, but also poverty. My old body's debts, the garage dream's dust. Staying meant war, and the family was regrouping. Aunt Clara's missives arrived daily, perfumed pleas. Come home, dear. Blood is thicker. Tommy's cease and desist, bluffing about contesting the will. Even a postcard from some cousin in Boca, hinting at disinheritance plots. The gala loomed like a guillotine, black-tie vipers in gilded halls. I prepped in the atelier, fittings for a gown like midnight armor, Versace, spiked shoulders subtle enough for the Met steps. As the seamstress pinned, a memory flashed, Eve's, from her prom, twirling in tulle while I watched from the stairs, invisible. Betrayal's root, that chasm between twins meant to mirror. I'd bridged it with vengeance. But the cost? Sleepless nights tallying the lives I'd upended, interns fired in purges, rivals ruined by leaks. Was this justice or just another Harrington power play? The locket warmed against my skin, a reminder. Ellie wouldn't flinch. The Met's temple of Dender shimmered under 1,000 LED stars, the elite of Manhattan swirling like sharks in tuxedos and couture, hedge fund titans, Broadway producers, the occasional Kardashian orbiting for flash. I entered alone, the gown whispering against my thighs. Eve's poise masking Ellie's quake. Heads turned, murmurs rippling. Evelyn Harrington, the swap survivor. Cameras popped from the red carpet stragglers, but security, my exil detail, herded them back. Inside, the air hummed with strings and small talk, the scent of orchids clashing with old money cologne. I scanned the crowd. Senators nursing flutes, Daddy's ex-mistress air-kissing socialites. No family yet, but their absence screamed ambush. Lena sidled up, flute in hand, her pantsuit a defiant slash of red. Perimeters tight. Tommy's inbound with Clara, ETA 5. Fixers got the drone cued for the keynote. The drone, a custom quadcopter, sleek as a dragonfly, loaded with holographic projectors to beam the truth across the hall. My speech was the bait, a toast to resilience and reinvention, laced with barbs only they would catch. As I mounted the dais, spotlights hot on my skin, the room hushed. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, voice amplified to godlike timbre. Tonight we celebrate not just art, but the sculptures we become from broken marble. Pauses for applause, eyes locking on the back doors where Tommy and Clara slipped in, faces pale as alabaster. Good. Let them squirm. The betrayal unspooled in my mind as I spoke. Deep, marrow deep. Eve hadn't just framed me. She'd savored it, testifying against me in court with crocodile tears, my hands twisting a handkerchief. Ellie's always been troubled, Your Honor. The money. It changed her. Daddy coached her lines over filet mignon, while I shivered in a holding cell. The secret buried deeper. The union bust wasn't just negligence. Daddy had the workers' rep suicided in a Jersey motel, a silenced .22 to the temple. I'd overheard the call as a kid, hidden in his study closet, and told Eve in twin confessional. She sold me out for a Birkin bag, whispering to Daddy, Ellie's unstable. Make her the scapegoat. The swap sealed it, bodies traded like stocks, my soul crammed into her shell like a hostile takeover. And in the end, I continued, cueing the drone with a subtle nod, what we bury often rises. The hall darkened fractionally as the device hummed overhead, projectors igniting in a cascade of light. Footage bloomed midair. The lab's sterile horror, my screams dopplering through speakers. Gasps rippled. A dowager clutched her pearls. A tech bro whipped out his phone. Daddy's voice boomed. No loose ends. Then the kicker. Financial overlays. My empire's ledgers projected in glowing grids. Harrington funds rerouted to eclipse. Billions unchained. The net worth reveal. Live and lethal. $5.1 billion now. Per the hacker's real-time scrape. Tommy bolted for the exit. Clara trailing with a wail. But my detail blocked them. Polite as bouncers at Studio 54. Chaos erupted, shouts, flashes, the Met's curator scrambling to kill the lights. I stepped off the dais into the fray, adrenaline singing in my veins like high-octane fuel. Ellie, Tommy roared, shoving past a waiter, face twisted in betrayal's mirror. You bitch. This destroys us all. I met his charge halfway. The gown's fabric no barrier to the slap that cracked across his cheek, Eve's ring drawing a thin line of blood. Controversial? Assaulting kin in public, cameras rolling? Damn right. But 15 years of his smirks at family roasts, his hands on my Eve's assets, demanded reckoning. Destroys? I hissed, close enough to smell his fierce sweat. You destroyed me first. Every merger you botched, every intern you harassed, I fixed it all, wearing her skin. Clara lunged then, nails raking, but Lena intercepted, twisting her arm in a lawyer's lock. Back off, hag. Your brother's secrets are public now. The bodies, the bribes. The old woman's eyes bulged, mascara rivers. She'd known, of course, co-signed the lab leases, turned a blind eye for her Upper East Side co-op. The crowd parted as NYPD flooded in, Kowalski at the helm. Badge glinting. Harrington, stand down. This is a crime scene. But I was steps ahead. The drone's payload included warrants, auto-filed via my lobbyists, nailing Daddy's accomplices in real time. Tommy crumpled, blubbering about shares, while Clara spat curses in wasp whispers. The stairs? Electric, 1,000 eyes pinning me like specimens. Hero, villain, freak show. A venture capitalist cornered me by the obelisk, card in hand. Bold play. Let's talk Series A for your neuroreversal tech. I laughed. Bitter. If only he knew the vial waited. Reversal within reach. As the arrests cuffed the night, Tommy for obstruction, Clara for conspiracy, I slipped to the rooftop terrace, the city sprawl a glittering apology below. The Hudson churned black, ferries slicing wakes like knife cuts. Lena joined me, lighting a Marlboro against protocol. You did it. Empire intact, skeletons out. But her eyes searched mine, sharp as subpoenas. Worth it? The question hung, heavy as the locket. Worth the controversial calls, dosing Eve's end, purging the board with NDAs that bordered blackmail, now this, humiliating kin before the 1%. Revenge's climax tasted a victory, but laced with void. I'd avenged the crime I bore. The frame, the swap, the lost years. But at what cost to the soul inside? Dawn crept, pink fingers over the bridges, when the final call came. Daddy, from Max Security, voice a rasp.
Ellie.
The serum. It's flawed. Reversal kills the host. Lie or truth. The logs I'd skimmed hinted at it. Neural feedback loops, souls too entwined to untangle. My hand flew to the locket, heart hammering. If true, I was trapped as Eve forever, the thief's body my prison or palace. But the twist reversed it all. In his panic, he confessed the buried bomb. The swap? Not his idea. Eve had pitched it, wild-eyed on pills, after I confronted her about the rep's death. Switch with me, sis. Live my life. I'll take your heat. Betrayal inverted. She wasn't pawn. She was architect, seducing Daddy into the plot to escape her own guilt. I'd borne her sins, but she'd worn mine heavier, crumbling in my shell until the end. The revelation cracked me open, laughter bubbling manic against the rail. A happy ending? I toppled the throne, claimed the crown, family in ruins, yet free, in a way. Tragic? The girl Ellie died twice, once in bars, once in vengeance. Debatable like all good American dreams. As sirens wailed distant, I pocketed the phone. The serum's promise now poison. Eclipse rose with the sun, my net worth a shield and shackle. The family stared from headlines, from cells, from rehab mirrors, but I stared back, finally whole in the fracture.